study of some 30 scientists from around the world on what the science goals of having people there would be. Could we do all of that with robots? Maybe over time, the answer is yes, perhaps. However, making the kind of discoveries, and of course this looks like, anyway, it looks like something out of a shopping mall, but it's just an analogy for what we can do. Humans someday, I believe, scientifically, must go to Mars as experiments in their own right, but also to allow us to really interrogate the Mars system for those really elusive clues to how this planet works. We found that works here on Earth. I'm going to show you in a minute how it works. Now, one of the building blocks, I'm just about done, that's going to be needed to eventually enable human exploration and even sample return of Mars with robots is new classes of vehicles. These are being debated now by the Augustine Commission, rightfully so. One of the ones that would be most enabling, and this recurringly returns to our mind as we think about going to Mars, is the kind of heavy lift launch vehicle that is now on the drawing boards at Marshall Space Flight Center known as Ares 5. Putting hundreds of metric tons into low Earth orbit is the enabling step, the same way the Transcontinental Railroad got us to California and the 707 flew us to watch the Dodgers in Los Angeles. I'm being funny there, but sorry about that, it is morning. Anyway, those kind of vehicles and the information technology and the science planning tools and the next generation of kids that will be doing that are necessary ingredients to opening the Mars frontier. They really are, folks. There is no getting around it. There is no easy path to space without going to space. Since we live in space, it's natural. So the shuttle has given us a generation of one way of accessing it. Larger vehicles like the one I just showed is another. So let me finish in my last 5 minutes with a couple of thoughts. One of the best ways to get to know Mars, of course, is through our robotic missions that we're flying now. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the Mars Exploration Rovers, what was known as Mars Global Surveyor Odyssey, the European Mars Express mission, upcoming missions known as Megan, for example, being built right here in Maryland, and of course the Mars Science Lab. The other way is to go to the Mars analogs on Earth and understand them as if we were on Mars. One of my favorites in particular was one named by 2 Air Force pilots in 1962, Don Juan, right here seen from the eyes of the Kono satellite in the dry valleys of Antarctica. This area, about a kilometer by a half a kilometer wide, is the coldest wet place on Earth. The hypersaline waters in this mud-like pond actually contain cyanobacteria. Whether they were blown in or they come from the discharge system that feeds that pond, here you see us watching it during the International Polar Year from ICONOS and GOI, is unclear. But this kind of environment on Earth is rare. It may be so rare that it better embodies some of the things on Mars. The average surface temperature is minus 22 Celsius. Of course, the surface pressure is Earth atmospheric. Pressure at the surface of 1 atmosphere. But however you look at it, it is a harbinger of what's coming. This is the salty terrain seen from a helicopter, where inside some of these salt deposits we find halophytic and cryo types of organisms. This is the pond when it's rarely wet. These are the kind of environments on Earth that scientists today go to with the kind of equipment that we can send on robots to Mars. This is when it's dried up. You can see a field team here. This is actually an ecologically protected site. We have found deposits like this through the Odyssey Themis instrument on Mars. Salt-rich deposits that could be, in fact, and this shows it up close, could be the kinds of things that we need to recognize as possible ancient habitats. And so the fact that we found these kind of environments, not wet, today on the surface, on Mars is, I think, a beacon for us as we think about the planet. So going to Mars today is very exciting. The other thing we do is we go to places where we can fully explore with humans as if we were going to Mars. One of those places is the recurring field trips, one coming up, you'll hear about tomorrow, to Svalbard on the Norwegian island of Spitsbergen, where we take some of our field astrobiology gear from across the agency to places that in the rocks contain these otherworldly signatures of things. And so a team of scientists are leaving later in the week. This is the Mars meteorite. Okay, we look for things like that. Some of the PAHs and other signatures we find we now can actually study in the field. But this is not a robot. These are people, or at least the Macintosh computer. Anyway, not sure they're space rated yet, but they're getting there, I'm sure. But this is the kind of practice we now have in our field analog programs. So let me finish with just a thought. I've been looking for Mars on Earth my whole career. It spans now 30 years, I'm embarrassed to say. I guess my gray hair reflects that. One of the places I've been most mystified by are the new lands on Earth that form after volcanic eruptions. This is the biggest one that formed in the last 50 years, the island of Surtsey, off the coast of Iceland. It's the mid-ocean ridge coming on land. Of course, we don't have things like this on Mars. But here are belly systems shown on Surtsey, which are identical to those that we've now discovered 10,000 times on Mars. This was a revelation in 2000. Cover of Science, all hands press conference. We've seen this on Earth. These eruptions, temporary, that produce layered rocks, we've now seen from orbit with MRI. This kind of texture, this kind of topology, these kind of chemistries, there's me, not on Mars, but on Surtsey, are the kind of things we're looking for. So, of course, right on Surtsey, we also have extremophile life environments right there at our footsteps. These are the modern records of what we're looking for on Mars, and they're elusive. They may be everywhere, or they may be almost nowhere. Here you see cyanobacteria colonizing a vent of steam that goes down to the mid-ocean ridge. NASA and the National Science Foundation invested in studying these environments. They may be lurking on Mars. We don't know. Of course, this is what we'd love to find on Mars, right in the region in Iceland, which most recently erupted in the last few million years. These kind of boiling steam events, we've seen chemical signatures now from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter hyperspectral imager of the rock deposits that would come from this kind of thing. I'd like to tell the story that our cameraman, when we filmed this from Discovery Channel, didn't quite realize the peril he was in, but it shows the nature of human exploration. So I'll finish with, well, that's just the ooze that we find that we would love to find on Mars. So I'll finish with a little story that I like to tell. About 50 years ago, 51 years ago now, the great American modernist painter, someone known as Georgia O'Keeffe, no relation to our former administrator, painted this famous picture, The Ladder to the Moon. I think it was a harbinger of an era of human exploration that went to the moon and then to the space shuttle that allowed servicing Hubble, that you're going to hear about in a minute. It was a harbinger. This great picture by Georgia O'Keeffe, painted by the inspiration of her, I guess her ranch in Taos, New Mexico, I think defined maybe the first and second generation of exploration of the universe. It led to Hubble. It led to the dreams of the next decade. But now I think those dreams are changing. The bigger universe and this planet are beckoning. Scientifically, exploration-wise, and I think in the minds of many of the people that will have to actually go do it. So I maintain that going to Mars someday with humans is both scientifically compelling, but also it's compelling in its own right as an example of what we can actually do in the domain of high technology and space. So I'd like to finish then with just the thought that you haven't seen anything yet. Sorry about loading up my PowerPoint again, but just load it up again. And I'd like to finish with this thought because, sorry about the security. Mars is the fourth rock from the sun. The kids are interested. Here's my daughter in 6th grade giving a presentation about Mars to her buddies, 120 kids in Howard County. But I show this because they were actually interested enough to ask for it. A bunch of random American 6th grade girls and boys wanted to hear about the universe through the eyes of Mars. That's what we're presented with today as our nation deliberates and our nations of the world how to get to Mars. The science from the Mars exploration program has been inspiring. It's as compelling as the Earth observing system has done for our own planet, and it's ready to continue to deliver. So I want to just thank you all for listening, and please look forward to the Mars Science Lab and its Curiosity rover. You haven't seen anything yet, in my view. So thanks very much.
Bravo.